Now, if you go for a small van, so the capacity of the small van is how much? It can accommodate 100 people. It can accommodate 100 people. And what if 120 people comes? You have to think here. Think here. Listen carefully what I'm saying. Then you'll get to understand. Don't rectify it, because you cannot rectify it, because situation will change again and again. So for example, you bought a 100 crates van which had the capacity of 100, but the demand was for 120. Demand was for 120. So can you accommodate 120? The answer is no, you cannot accommodate 120. You can only accommodate 100. So 20 had to be turned away. 20 had to be turned away because capacity is less, 100, and the demand is more, 120. So the revenue that you will be working out will be only on the basis of that you have accommodated, and the only you have accommodated is 100. So 100 multiplied by 10 is 1000. Now variable cost, as there was a capacity of 100 and you have accommodated 100, so the variable cost will also be on 100 into 4, that is 400. Then comes the goodwill adjustment. So will there be any goodwill charge? Yes, because the capacity was 100 and 120 people came. So 20 had to be turned away, which means there will be a goodwill charge of 100. Depreciation of small van is 200. The answer is 300. Okay. So this is the first profit possibility. So I hope this is clear. And like this, we'll be doing the calculations for the other possibilities. So now if the van is small, having a capacity of 100 and 190 people come, 190 crates demand arises. So how many the company will be able to accommodate? Obviously the capacity is 100, so maximum is 100. So again, the calculation would be similar. That is 100 multiplied by 10 will be 1000. So it's the same revenue, and once again the cost will be same as well. Once again the cost will be same, 400. And because whether you turn back 80, 90 or 10, the goodwill charge remains same at 100, and the depreciation of small van is 200. So the answer is same, 300, which means the situation 1 and the situation 2 is exactly same with no change in these two, because the capacity in both the cases was 100 and the demand were exceeding the 100. One it was 120 and 190. In both the cases the revenue would only be earned on the crates that you can accommodate, and that were 100, and the cost will arise on that as well, and the goodwill charge is same, because how many customers you turn away, the goodwill charge remains same. Now moving forward, let's come to the medium van. If the company buys medium van, so the capacity of medium van is 150. Now this is a different situation. So that now the capacity is 150, but the demand is 120. Which means if the capacity is more, which is 150, and demand is less, 120, so the revenue that you will work out, will be 150 or 120. So it's simple. As the capacity is 150 and only 120 crates are there, so revenue will be booked on the basis of 120, because the maximum demand is 120. So now the revenue will be on the basis of 120. So this is a change that you can observe here. This is a change that is coming in your thoughts as well. And this change is basically giving you an indication that you cannot rectify it. You have to consider the situation. So now as the demand is 120 and the capacity is 150, so obviously the revenue will only be based on 120. That is the number of crates that came. So the variable cost will also be on the basis of 120, but the question is that variable cost the same as it was before? So the answer is no. The variable cost will change here. The variable cost will change here because the capacity is 150 and sorry, the capacity is 150 and the demand here is 120. Capacity is 150 and the demand is 120. So if the demand is 120, which means 30 capacity of the 30 crates was unused. 30 crates capacity was unused. So that is why the variable cost has to be reduced by 10%, and the variable cost now will be 4 into 0.9 is 3.6. So the variable cost that you will be taking here is 3.6, and this 3.6 means that the figure that you will take here will be 480. Clear? 480. So it's 120 into 3.6. Did you get my point? So it's 120 into 3.6, and this is the variable cost charge. Now, this is just because that capacity was more, demand is less. Goodwill, there will be no goodwill charge because, as you know, that we did not turn away anyone just because the capacity was more, and the depreciation charge of medium van is 300. The profit of medium van will be 468. And now let's do the calculation of the fourth possibility. So once again, if I move towards fourth, so the demand is, the capacity is 150 and the demand is 190. Now the fourth possibility is the one in which the capacity is 150 and demand is more than the capacity, that is 190. So if 150 people came, if 190 people came, how much you will accommodate? 150. That is same as your capacity. So 150 is what you can accommodate max. So 1500 is the revenue. As you have accommodated 150, so the variable charge will be on 150. And what figure will I take here? It's the same 4, because this is a situation in which 150 was the capacity, whereas 190 came, 40 had to be turned away. So this is a goodwill charge. So variable cost is same at 4. Goodwill charge will be 100 irrespective how many we are sending back, and the depreciation of a medium van is 300. So this makes 500. Now working number 5. Let's work out. Now let's see if we go for a large van, so that has a capacity of 200, and how many we will be able to accommodate. How many is the demand? 120. So if you have a van having 200 seats, but people that came are just 120, so the revenue will be on 120. Variable cost will be on the basis of 120, but multiplied by 3.6. Because it is a large van which had a capacity of 200 and your people came 120, so 80 seats were empty. So that's why variable cost had to go down with no goodwill charge, and the depreciation of a large van is 400. The answer is 368. Let's see situation 6. So the van is once again 200 capacity van, and demand is of 190. 200 capacity van and demand is 190. So how many came? 190. So 190 will be the number of units here because the demand was 190 and the capacity was more. So revenue will be booked on the basis of demand this time as 10 seats were empty because total capacity was of 200 and 190 came. So there will be a reduction in variable cost, no goodwill charge, depreciation being 400, and the answer is 816. And all these calculations will give you 9 marks altogether. So I hope this is clear to all of you that how I'm doing the calculations here. And this is pretty much easy as well, the way I'm doing the calculations. So this is a payoff table. So yes, don't learn or rectify. You have to look at the situation like I am doing here. There were 3 cases today in this question where capacity was more and demand was less. So whenever the capacity was more and demand was less, we reduce the variable cost. Like this one, and this one. And when the demand was more and capacity was less, so people had to be turned away. In that case, there was a goodwill charge here, here, and here. And revenue is the one that you cannot lock. You have to see that revenue will be based on the capacity of the demand. And I showed you here because if the capacity is less and demand is more, so you can only accommodate until up till your capacity allows you. So the revenue will be on the basis of capacity. And when the demand is less and the capacity is more, so you will only get the demand because it is less, so revenue will be based on demand. And like this, I've done the calculations and the variable cost and the goodwill charge and the depreciation. So these are 6 profit figures that we have worked out here. Okay. So don't learn because every time the situation of D and sun will be different. Whenever it is different, you have to think accordingly. I hope up till now this is pretty much clear. Now moving forward towards the next requirement. And let's see what the requirement here is. Now it says that explain, I'm reading the first requirement, explain the principles behind Maximex, Maximin and expected value criteria that are sometimes used to make decisions in uncertain situations. So there is one decision rule missing, that is minimum regret rule, but we will be covering that as well in this question. Okay. So now let's see what these decision rules and expected values are. Going back to the handout, these 2 techniques are the one that you will be using for decision table. So first, I will not be discussing expected value. First, I'll discuss decision rule. There are 3 types of decision rules: Maximex, Maximin, and Minimis regret rule. Now, decision rule is a one that will not use probabilities. Okay, so decision rule will not use probabilities. So this is a technique that does not uses probabilities. Okay. Now the first technique is Maximex. So what is Maximex? It says from the list of maximum, select the maximum one. From list of maximum, select the maximum one. So let's see what it means. So this means you have to make a list of maximum and you have to select the maximum one. Let's understand this.